one thing. In fact, we can just see there, just let me stop by saying we see President Trump there wearing a skull cap, a kippah, in fact, as it's known in Hebrew, being taken to the Western Wall by the ultra-Orthodox rabbi in charge of the location. And clearly he's been asked to look at text as such, explaining the importance of the wall. What is also very interesting for viewers is the fact that he's actually standing with his wife, because men and women are actually separated in front of the wall, and clearly we can see that they're not right in front of the wall, they're quite a few metres back in a general common area. And as I was saying earlier, this is an area almost crammed full to its brim with both tourists and Jewish pilgrims. And Doug Herbert, our international affairs commentator, as we were saying earlier, this is a very controversial side trip to make. In fact, his administration got into a bit of hot water in the last few weeks because they talked about the Western Wall actually not being present in Israel, something which, of course, the Israelis...
Exactly. I mean, the geographic, everything, basically, you could wade into giant controversies just depending on where you're physically standing in Jerusalem. In this case, in the Old City, I mean, this cuts really to the core of a lot of those outstanding problems. If they ever, manage to get, and Donald Trump says it's his express purpose to try to get both the parties back to the negotiating table, right? We've basically had the Israeli-Palestinian peace process completely dead in the water, completely stalled. They totally collapsed in 1914. There's been no real direct contact between the Israeli prime minister and his Palestinian counterpart since 2010. So we're talking about 7 years now. And in this case, one of the enduring issues when you see, now, like you said, they're in the area near the wall, not actually at the wall itself, at which point you would expect to see segregation of men and women there. But, in the 1967 war, basically, when the Old City was captured by Israel and subsequently annexed several years later in the Six-Day War, Israel sees Jerusalem as its eternal capital, and that has been a point on which they haven't really, right now, at least in their public pronouncements, haven't really budged. And the issue here, obviously, is that the Palestinians ultimately see at least the Old City, part of the Jerusalem, as their capital as well. This is one of the massive issues. As we see Donald Trump, sort of walking over right now, I assume he's approaching the wall. We don't have the right perspective here.
Let me at this point actually bring in Iris Macklin, because Iris, our Jerusalem correspondent, and myself as a former Jerusalem correspondent, know very well that there is a separation of men and women. At this point we're seeing images, Iris, of the women having been left behind as both Donald Trump, accompanied by his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and the ultra-Orthodox rabbi, are getting closer to the wall. What exactly... what else is going to happen while he's here at this historic location?
What we're seeing at the moment is that's gender division, and the women have reached the actual wall first, and they've had an explanation first from the rabbi of the Western Wall, what they're going to see, what its meaning is. Now the women, Melania and Ivanka, are having an explanation on their side of the wall, and Trump is standing on the other side of the wall with the Western Wall rabbi and another rabbi. And they're explaining to him where he is, what it means, what prayers you make here, what its historic significance is.
How long is he expected to stay at this location, Iris?
It's not clear how long they're expected to stay, because nothing has been to schedule so far today. The plane landed half an hour late. They were delayed at the airport by well-wishers, a meeting that wasn't meant to take place with Israel's cabinet. So everything is a little bit out of kilter today. And since there is the possibility of prayer, Jewish people pray there, and so do many non-Jewish visitors. It's regarded as a spiritual place. This is a private visit, so it really is up to them to say how long they want to stay, what it means to them. Here we see in front of us Donald Trump actually approaching the walls, putting his hand on those ancient stones. They're very smooth down the bottom, where hundreds of people for thousands of people for hundreds of years have put their hands there and prayed there. And he is doing that. Normally when people who are not the President of the United States go, it's very crowded. It's been completely cleared of people so that he can have this private moment of prayer at this site that is holy for Jews. And so we see his wife on the other side, her hands also on these ancient stones. We see the President of the United States putting a note in the wall. This is something that you do, a note you write for God, a wish that you have that you want fulfilled. The last time that we saw an American president do this, before he was the president, when he was just a candidate, Barack Obama did this, and someone then found the note, took it out and published what he'd written. So they are hoping, they say, that won't happen, that this note will remain private between Donald Trump and God.
Now, this is the first ever serving American president to visit the Western Wall, or the Kotel as it's known in Hebrew. And of course, as you pointed out there, Iris, security being a primary consideration, primarily because it's overlooked by the Temple Mount, the Al-Aqsa mosque compound, of which, of course, that has been a location for many clashes between Israeli troops and Palestinians. I imagine the whole of the old city is in lockdown as we speak, Iris.
The whole of the old city is in lockdown, and in fact, Donald Trump and his party opted to walk from where they were along a route that they had erected 8-metre screens along that route so that no one could see them, all stalls closed. All people who live there are either inside their houses or actually told to leave. And along that route we saw CCTV footage of him in splendid isolation, something you never see because people actually live in the old city. There are always, even at night, people scurrying home along those ancient paths. And of course there are tourists and pilgrims. Today completely empty, in lockdown, in fear that this actually is the most sensitive spot, the most difficult spot to police, and it is believed that the Israeli chief of police and the Israeli head of the security service is at this site at this moment, so that if anything goes wrong, they're there on site because it is so difficult to police this.
Iris, it's Doug here in the studio. Just briefly, I noticed just a couple of minutes ago, Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, was right at Donald Trump's side. Was he sort of there at an advisory role? That's sort of unusual as well.
I think we've seemed to have lost Iris Mackler. Iris, are you able to hear us?
I can just hear you. For some reason, I've lost some of the sound.
Right. Doug was just asking there about Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, who was at his side as he came down for that briefing with the rabbi, and he was just asking if indeed that's an unusual thing. I mean, given, was he there as in a personal capacity or was he there as an advisor?
I would suggest he was there perhaps as both, but certainly in a personal capacity. Jared Kushner is an observant Jew. This is the holiest site for Jews in the world. I was going to say in Jerusalem, but also in the world. So if you have the opportunity to be at this place with your father-in-law, you would take that opportunity, I think, just for yourself. Also for you to touch the stones, also for you to pray there. So he's there definitely in that capacity. He is Jewish. His father-in-law is not. So he's also there as an advisor. He's also there as an explainer. There he has the rabbi, of course, but he has his son-in-law by his side just to reaffirm those messages and to tell him something that might be personal to him that would make it more meaningful for Donald Trump at that spot.